Good morning and thanks for joining us on the Tuesday edition of TVC Breakfast. Now, the news of Usifo Ataga's death a few weeks ago left many people in shock, especially after the alleged suspect behind his murder, 21-year-old Chidinma Ojukwu, was arrested by the police. Many questions begging for answers, including why he was brutally killed. If his killing was a setup, was it to dispossess him of some of his wealth? Was the alleged suspect working alone? These are only some of the questions that many hope the police investigation might answer when it is concluded. But at the heart of all of this is why a young girl would be involved in the situation. Joining me for this discussion is broadcast journalist Ife Onyegbuli and social commentator Oladeyinde Ario. Good morning, Ife. Good morning.
Good morning.
Right. I know we have been following this issue when it came up, and divergent reactions have come up, and it has also raised certain issues which I want us to focus on because the matter is being investigated. Several issues have been raised up, from parenting, the abuse of drugs, so many social issues, and I want us to begin from what issues have sprung up that strikes us the most that we think should be addressed stemming from this issue. Let me begin with you, Ife.
So much has actually come up, as you rightly said now. But I think also, as we try to discuss this in the public domain, on TV, radio, social media, we need to bear in mind what it is that the family of the late Ataga has actually said, that there's a lot of misconception outside there, you know, regarding their son, their brother, their husband, and all of that. But we also need to understand that so many questions have been left unanswered. Many have asked how it will be that a very young-looking girl, a 21-year-old, how she's able to hold a man down like that. I saw the video of the man in a pool of his own blood, and you wonder how that will happen. But I always say that there's something that is known between just the two of them, the man who's dead, the young lady who's caught in all of this, and God. Except, of course, there are people who also know exactly what it is that happened. Now, when you look at some of the things that have come out as a result of this very sad story, you find out that there are reports of the girl having an ID in her bag that has a photograph with a different name. And you're asking, why would a girl like that have an ID that bears her photograph and a different name?
And a foreign number.
Yes. And a foreign number. So you begin to wonder why that will be. There are also videos of her hanging out with very terrible people. Why would a girl like that, you know, be seen hanging out with such persons? There are reports of her having dealings with a security man somewhere where they had to do some exchanges and all of that. So you wonder, when things like this happen, so many other things are dug up, they're brought out to the fore. And you're asking yourself the question, what happened to parenting? At what point did they lose it?
At 21,
yes.
Let me just ask, were you able to do certain things that you see young girls?
Let me say it in local parlance, they never born me. I can't, you know. As I was saying to both of you before we came on, the day I was to sit on a chair to say to my father, this is the man that I'm going to marry, I was shaking. I couldn't even sit on the same chair with the gentleman when I had to present him before my father. But it's not to say that I'm a saint, do you understand? But there's this thing that had been inculcated in you. You had been brought up with it. There's no way you can veer off it. And that's not to say that we're saints when we're all talking about Chidinma.
Not at all.
Now, there's a question of her mother not being with her father again. That's not an excuse. That's the truth. I have seen young ladies who were brought up by just their fathers. Thank God you have one person here in the studio who's bringing up a girl child. So I'm saying that there has to be somewhere where we can pinpoint that this is where it went wrong. You cannot. I remember years ago, I stepped out and my father was sitting down reading his paper as usual. He just raised his face and saw I had a short skirt on. And he said to me, "You're not going to church in that." And I said, "Daddy, no, it's not possible for me to go to church in this. I'm not even going to church this Sunday." So what I'm trying to say is, there are fathers who can sniff things from afar. How can you say your daughter goes out to smoke, whatever she says she smokes and all that? She comes back home and you can't smell it, you can't feel it, you can't see it. Every father can look at a child in the eye and know that there is something wrong. So I think they failed somewhere. And we need to trace it.
Because when you look at her age, 21, she didn't just start today. Looking at the various reports that have sprung up as a result of this issue. And you are wondering, because we see videos of young ladies abusing substances, drinking, and some of these things. And you are wondering, where are their parents?
Right.
Where are their... Is it that the society is putting so much pressure on young persons to engage in these things, or it is that parents have just, you know, lost that thing that, you know, we had at the time, that it's now springing up all of these issues?
From the sad point, I'll tell you straight away that the most deceptive relationship is between children and their parents.
Really?
Yeah.
Why so?
Not between husband and wife or otherwise. I'll use myself as an example.
Right.
My mother detested night parties. So we were, don't even mention it. One weekend, she was out of town. One of my friends, I was in secondary school, lost his father. And the school said we should visit, right? They didn't say we should go to night party. But we took the time, when I had not been in town, I attended the night party. Now, my friend was just like, they didn't have no food not to give us. And I saw one of my mother's close friends at the party. I went to her that we were here. She gave us a bar, the first food, at about 9 p.m. At about 2 a.m. she gave us rice and we ate. So we left the party at about 5, 6. That's Sunday morning. My mom came back on Monday. The woman now sent me to my mom with a message. Of course, I dared not deliver the message. Now, maybe a week later they met. I said, so they didn't tell me anything. I went to pack a night party. My mother got home. My mother was defending me with all the strength in her body. And she got home. I easily said, I denied easily because I know she will kill me. No two ways to eat. Now, what happened? The woman came to our house and she confronted me. And I was so calm. Mama, maybe you were in a dream or in a trance. Okay? And that thing went. The woman was weeping. Several years later, after I started working, I was settled. I came home, bought things because it was worrying me. Each time the woman was in our house, I needed to make it up to this woman. So I bought things for her, one lace, gilly, and all of that. So, and I told my mom I was wrong. Then, so she took me to that woman to go and confess. This is my own story. Okay? Now, you can understand where I'm coming from. I was brought up, I was in the choir from primary 2 at about, I was barely 8 then. And then we grew up like that. But behind our parents, there are a lot of things we did that if they ever got to know, I don't know.
But despite
so you
that,
must understand that. Now,
fear.
That as a background,
yes.
Like I told you, it's a very deceptive between parents and children. Now, at our time, we had very limited access to information at the global level. Okay? But today, remember I told you one day that my MBA thesis was on the murderous impact of technology. And I explained how everything technology brought has its own good side and terrible bad side. Unfortunately here, we do not have the capacity to manage access to information of our up and growing children. And that for me is the departure point. Yes, they go to church, they go to mosque, they are trained, they are groomed, but there's this external peer pressure that encourages them to become defiant. There are videos I saw in the last 2 weeks that I was shocked. Young girls, 16, 17, 18, smoking all manner of stuff and getting high. Some attending parties naked, not wearing anything, and in the midst of male adults. So we cannot
who can serve as their fathers.
Older than their father.
Right.
Now we cannot.
So we need to be looking at such men as enablers. That's the truth.
So we cannot now wholesale begin to blame the parents. There are failed.
But they play a major role.
They play a major role.
I'm not saying no, but out there, a lot of factors have combined to expose youth to a situation where you would never have thought they will get into. Now, coming to Chidima's case, it's a bunch with fingers. It will be very myopic and pedestrian to ever conclude that Chidima single-handedly murdered Ataga.
Okay, before we get to that point, let's quickly take this report from our correspondent, Ivy Kanu, who has been following up developments with regards to that story.
With so many conspiracy theories flying all over the social media, TVC News decided to dig deeper into the background of the girl who is in the eye of the storm. Now, after the death of Michael Usifo on the 15th of June, Chidima Ojukwu was traced to her residence, which is right behind me, on 23rd of June, Wednesday, around 9 p.m. And she was arrested with her guardian, Mr. Ojukwu. Though we were allowed access into her Yaba residence, no one was available to speak with us. The case wasn't any different, as those living on the same street acknowledged knowing her, but refused speaking on camera. Students at the University of Lagos Akoka described Chidima's action as shocking and not reflective of those in the institution.
Actually very shocking, and it's like unbelievable. It's something you'd definitely not think about that it's possible to happen, but it just threw like the university community into shock.
Yeah, the point, we are all students. That's the part she chose, because they should not blame the school for anything. The school is not. We are all adults. You're all responsible, or you're all in charge, or take responsibility for all our actions.
There's no justification for what she did, because taking somebody's life is not something that should be justifiable. Whatever she did out there, it's like a bad name to the school. Like, the reputation of the school is at stake. But we all know that there's no way it will affect the school, because it's her personal life and it has nothing to do with the school.
The case that happened is a case of bad parenting, because if the foundation is not well laid out, that's where we have excesses like this. So, and this sends out a warning note to parents out there that they should be cautious of their children and the activities they operate on.
Our next stop was the crime scene. We are right here in front of the apartment where the mother took in. We are told that between Sunday, where they checked into this apartment, Usifo's family and friends were still able to communicate with him, not until Tuesday/Wednesday night, when they couldn't reach him. Now we'll walk in and see, although the police are not allowing us access because it's a crime scene, we'll see the little details that we can get inside. It's a one-bed short-legged apartment. From the entrance, our camera could see the kitchen, which is enclosed with the room. Blood stains still evident on the bedspread and sheets. The room all scattered. We also noticed a huge chunk of blood clot on the floor. This seems to be a tough case, but security expert Dennis Amak recommended the police for what they have achieved so far and says more can be done.
No, in Lagos State they have forensic investigators that were recently trained. They should go in there, look at the place very, very well, and see whether somebody was trying to wash off evidence that was apparent in that room. And then, of course, the position of where the body lies. Where was he? How was he stabbed? Was he stabbed by her? What is her height as considered to his own height? We have to know. And then the angle of strike, we have to know that. So if the angle of strike and the height does not rhyme properly, it will show that there were other people that were in that room doing this particular thing with her. Telephone records, I think they've not looked into that to know the people she has been communicating with, before and after she has been discovered. So if we know the telephone log and with the help of the service providers, we should be able to know who has been talking to her and stuff like that.
Meanwhile, family of the late Michael Usifo released a statement seeking more discreet investigation by the police. They also asked that they be left alone to grieve their son. Meanwhile, our sources say that Mr. Ojukwu, who many believed was Chidima's biological father, is not but her guardian. Her name at birth was Chidima Blessing Ebuchu. She's actually the second child of late Mr. Michael Ebuchu and Mrs. Kate Ebuchu, both of Imo State, and not from Ababu Arochukwu, Abia State, as being reported in the media. Her biological parents separated in the late 90s, and when her father, Michael Ebuchu, died in 2019, her mother, Kate Ebuchu, went on to remarry and now bears Kate Dibia. Our sources further revealed that Chidinma, on her own volition, made Mr. Ojukwu her legal guardian as a way of showing appreciation for re-enrolling her in school in 2014, sponsoring her in school, training her in fashion design, modeling, executive ushering, and beauty therapy. Mr. Ojukwu, we were told, does not intend to abandon her in these trying times. According to information, Michael Ataga had 2 houses on the island, one in VGC and another in Banana Island. The car which the late Mr. Ataga drove to the apartment is still at the police station. As it stands, only Chidinma holds the answer to the many holes in her recent statement when she was paraded by the police. Many are of the view that she may not have acted alone and wants the police to extend their dragnet further to unravel what and why this happened. Ivy Kano, TVC News, Lagos.
And indeed, only Chidinma holds the answers to the holes in this issue, because this report has, just thrown light to a lot of things. That name she was bearing isn't really her name. She adopted the man as her father, and everyone thought that was her father. From the report, our correspondent, and it begs a lot of questions. So many issues. She came up with an identity, as you mentioned earlier.
Mary Johnson, with a different name and her picture.
So it begins to get worrying that this issue is more than we think.
Yes, so much, a lot more will come out of this. Look at the connection now. When her mother left, her father died, why she had to adopt. Now she adopted the man to say,
not the man adopting her.
Exactly, she adopted her for paying her or putting her back in school. She had to adopt the man. Okay, be my father. And I'm thinking that man is also a person of interest. They need to look into whatever relationship that exists between them, the father and daughter relationship, find out what's going on. And I like what your reporter, Ivy Kano, did right here to say, look, to speak to the man, the expert there, who said, look, they need to take a look at what has happened, what went wrong, what happened with the phone calls. They need to take a look at the phone logs, know exactly who she spoke to days before, and when it happened. We need to take a look at all of that. And I also agree with the family to say, look, we have to stop this idea of bringing everything to social media, bringing everything in the open. Go and do the thorough investigation. When you now have a full plate of meat, you can now bring it out to say, this is this and that is that. So that you don't come out tomorrow to say, look, we're sorry, we didn't know it wasn't like this. Now, we're hearing she's from Imo, not Arochukwu in Abia.
She said she was from Imo and mentioned Arochukwu and one village I cannot easily remember.
Arochukwu
She mentioned it.
Yes, it's not in Imo, so now it's clear that she's from Imo. Some were even saying she's Anambra because of the name Ojukwu. And I think we need to stop jumping into conclusions. Let's always wait until a full investigation is conducted and the truth is out.
I will not be able to lay the blames at the door of the public. When a thing like this happens, naturally everybody will show interest. The problem we've had here is the irresponsibility of social media bloggers. They easily want to run with any story.
And be the first to break it.
God bless you. They call it breaking news. And you are breaking lies. You are breaking untruths. Not even half truths now. And by doing that, you are causing some families pain. As much as people are blaming Ataga, and I say, let he who is not guilty cast the first stone.
Right?
Let the married man in today's world.
Are you encouraging it?
I am not. Listen, I'm not encouraging what transpire, but I'm saying that for all of us, it's a lesson and it's a call. A call that says, okay, come back home, because you may end up with a Chidinma and you will pay the price of losing your life and terminating your destiny at whatever point it comes. What I'm saying is, they now started throwing base at Ataga, and I felt too bad because a lot of them that I also knew, and I knew their lifestyle, and I asked, on what platform are you standing to condemn this guy? Play side by side. How do you think people, if your own situation should come public
to the open,
how do people will see you? We have lost all the humanity in us, and then we just want to condemn and condemn and condemn.
So
and
we shouldn't call what is wrong.
I'm not saying, listen, I'm not saying that we
but you have just said it here that we shouldn't blame the public. The public will definitely talk, but I agree with what you're saying.
But what I'm saying is, it is not as if all of us now are saints. But we have this hypocritical tendency, okay, to want to hide behind one finger and think we are not seen. If this never happened, nobody would have seen Ataga alive and accused him of dating a younger, a girl.
No, but she's an adult.
I'm not saying no. So,
but at her age, is that what she should get involved in?
21 to 50. The margin is wide, please. Yes. Especially when there was no plan to marry. I don't think he had the plan to marry. Yeah.
Well, that's not what we should be talking about now. The idea for us now is to, for those who are alive and still in the same business, people need to understand. Because a man is dead. That's somebody's father. That's someone's husband. That's someone's brother.
And trying to establish the wise that people can learn from it. It's important. We get to that point. You see, because Chidima said Usifo was getting violent. And from my professional perspective, it will take a man that has energy or strength in him, power, to get violent.
But she mentioned that they were abusing substances.
Absolutely.
But that is left for the investigators to handle.
Usifo was new to the drug or not, it's not even the issue. But for somebody who was a kickboxer, it wasn't a weakling, so to say. So much that, was he folding his hands while she was stabbing him? He would have reacted or whatever. But to let you understand that Chidima wasn't acting alone.
I think we should, let's leave that for
the investigators, because let's just focus our attention on the issues that this has brought up. Yes, we have seen that's the apartment where it happened. Obviously, we could see a struggle because there was a tear on the wall, blood stains everywhere, bottles and all of it there. But the concern is, at that age, what should young people get themselves involved in if they know they are building a future for themselves?
Now that you've talked about that, Veronica, it takes my mind to the gentleman who brought me here this morning. I decided to come by a cab, and I called the cab. When the young man spoke with me, it was his voice was kind of thin. I'm like, this is such a very young person. I could hear it in his voice. And when I got downstairs and got into the cab, I saw he was a very little boy. And in my mind, I'm wondering. So we got talking. How old are you? He says to me, he's 24. And he has that sense to say, I need to put a cab on the road, do some jobs, earn some money, and probably pay my way through school. I'm not saying it's going to be like that for everyone. But I'm thinking that at that age, what should be paramount in the minds of young persons is how they can move from point A to B, pursuing their career and all of that. But Are just talked about this idea of peer pressure. What kind of phones are you carrying? Where do you want to go? What can you drink? What can you smoke? I saw a photograph.
But you have a decision. You have the right to make a decision not to get involved.
Yes, I saw a photograph of my niece, very pretty, tall, she opened her eyes in my arms when she was born. And I saw this picture with smoke all over the place. She wasn't the one smoking, but people were taking what you call shisha all over the place. So I picked up my phone and I called her, and I'm like, what happened here? Why were you found in a place like this? Of course, she knew what would have happened if she was close to me. No matter how big you are, you can never grow up to, to stand up to me. She knew what would have happened. And she said, Auntie, she gave me an idea of what. I said, you shouldn't be found in such a place. And I sent those pictures to my sister to say, if you know the language in which you talk to your daughter, please do that, because I do not want to see this. Again, she's not around. And I'm supposed to be like her dad.
That brings to mind something that understanding how to communicate with your
That's
children
the idea.
at this point.
That's the idea.
Yeah, well, because,
such that they can open up to you and you can help them manage this pressure.
Yes, you see, from birth, parents should be determined now to befriend their children, and that is the only way you can get them to talk to you. So many parents are so detached from their children
because they're chasing money.
It's all about making money, providing for them, holiday abroad, vacation everywhere, and all of that. Not knowing that they need their time more than anything.
The presence.
You know how it flows, my daughter.
Yeah.
It's a 2-4-7 thing. Just on Saturday, she's home on holiday, and because she's in the boarding house, we needed to review how things have been. I carried her. We went to one restaurant. We sat there, ordered for what she wanted, ordered for mine, and then we started talking. Few things that she said that I didn't like, I noted them now. Which before she would go back to school, I will work on them. Parenting is a 2-4-7-3-6-5 thing now, and then don't just carry that old papa's swagger which they used on us. It won't work with this one. So, my father, the moment his car, the horn sounded at the beginning of the street.
You behave, you fall in line. You fall in line.
I'm talking of a man that had 13 wives. All of them will just take care of themselves. Don't even mention the children. We will be hiding because he must not find you in any unacceptable or untoward situation. You are in for it. On a Sunday, my father's driver will take all of us to the church because we were in the choir. And woe betide your mom if you should look up at the choir stand and not find you. Come on. But you see, those methods cannot work anymore because change, which affects virtually everything, has changed or not. Especially the needless and unmanaged, uncontrolled exposure to what they call Western civilization. That's worsening things. Like the young man that you said, it's just one out of very few.
Yes.
Unfortunately, today, the craze for instant wealth is so bad that they don't even read in school again. They do what they call sorting.
I'll shock you, Veronica. A gentleman met his niece's boyfriend. She was going to introduce him. The gentleman introduced himself and said to the guy, when he asked him, so what do you do for a living? He said, I'm a Yahoo boy.
Can you imagine?
Point blank. He said it. That look on your face, the guy was shocked. And he's like, really? He said, yes, that's what I do. I didn't kill anybody. That's what he said. And I'm like, really? He looked at you in the face with your niece standing beside boldly and said that to him. So it's kind of crazy. What worked for us those days cannot work now. He just talked about his father. I remember the year that Shina Peter's Afro Juju, was all over the place and all of that. My sister had a party and we all went. Imagine 5 of us went with her to the party. She took us and all of that. And some others brought their siblings also. When we got back home, I think we got back home at 8 or was it 9? We slept on the staircase. My father locked the door. And I could hear my mother by the other side of the door. My mother cried till morning, begging for him to open the door. The man didn't. We were just there on the staircase. And he came out in the morning and opened it. It wasn't that he didn't love us. He was trying to teach you a lesson. But those things cannot work today.
There's something I want us to talk about before we go, which is the abuse of substance, which this also brought up. Yesterday, I saw a report where it was said that a young guy abused substance and, he fell from, he said he was going to jump from a story building. That's the after effect of the drugs. And he died. And we keep seeing these people. He was in school. And we keep seeing these young children abusing drugs.
But you just talked about choice.
Shisha thing.
There is choice.
Okay, the shisha thing. I saw it in Dubai some very long years ago. So the first time I saw it in Nigeria, I was like, hey, we are done for. And then you now see girls. Then you see children playing, smoking shisha, without understanding the likely implications and consequences, both in the immediate and wider ones. And all of this thing for me border on loss of value. Is the bedrock of all the nonsense we are seeing now. We dare not drink growing up. And you see, I saw a video about 7 girls. They had Hennessy, different drinks. So
let's leave the brands out of it.
This one will drink a bit of this, pass it on, take another one, and they were drinking like that. you know, in circle. You know, how will it go? By the time they will have finished all the contents of the bottles, you know? So, for me, we need to reinvent our educational system to start with. Parents too, they need to be talked to.
Right.
They need to. We grew up as community children. You misbehave on the street, they deal with you.
Everybody.
Oh no, you don't go home and tell your parents.
Well, find out what
yes, I'm just thinking that we need to continue to create the awareness. People need to understand what will happen, that there are consequences for their actions.
Every action.
That is the truth. We need to let them understand, if you take this, this is what might happen. I'll quickly share this with you. When my husband took ill, you know, I wouldn't say it was at the point he was going to die. I was all over the place looking for tramadol. I couldn't find it until I went into some kind of interior. When I got there, they thought I was a policewoman. And they said to me, Madam, are you sure you need this thing? I had to show them the prescription before they went out to get it out for me. So we need to let people understand that there are consequences for
every
their actions. And people need to understand that whatever you do, you will always get the result of it. And we just hope that the young people of today learn and understand that there is everything.
No, we have run out of time.
For everything.
Broadcast journalist Ify Oyebule, thank you. Social commentator Alade Ediario, thank you. We have to go now. Thank you so much. We'll take a break. When we return, it will be time for the newspaper review. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. It is time now to know what's on the front pages of Nigerian newspapers. With me in the studio is broadcast journalist Funke Treasure and President Yewa Wari Youth Council, Abayomi Oke-Asiwaju. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast. All right, let's head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the blueprint. As El Rufai briefs Buhari on labor crisis, Kaduna comes under tension over fees hike. Student killed. Students were unruly. Rioters, police. NAS threatens to occupy Kaduna July 12th. Meets Gumi. All right, so you find details of the story on the pages of the blueprint. To the leadership newspaper now. At last, World Leadership Podcast Studio, UN Deputy Sec Gen Amina Mohammed wants more women in leadership positions, calls for coordinated approach to humanitarian crisis in the Northeast. Details of that story on the front page of the leadership newspaper. To the business day now, how China, India, Vietnam lifted millions out of poverty. You find details of the story on the pages of the business day. To the news direct now, banks, others intensify borrowing from CBN amid liquidity challenges. Borrowing rose by 183%. Right. To the Daily Trust now. Restructuring ACF, that's the Arewa Consultative Forum, puts northern lawmakers on alert. We must reject plots to divide Nigeria. Sultan will discharge our responsibilities. Bajabia Mila reacting there. Nothing on ground to restructure. CNG. Details of the story on the pages of the Daily Trust newspaper. To the Vanguard newspaper now. To avert third COVID-19 wave, federal government halts entry from South Africa, puts Zambia, Rwanda, Namibia, Uganda on watch list. 1,334 persons who came into the country from Brazil, India, and Turkey in quarantine. Airlines to pay $3,500 penalty for each defaulting passenger, to receive 3.9 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine. Asked TB Joshua's followers to follow his funeral virtually. All right, so the Punch newspaper now. Border corruption. Security agents, smugglers worsen subsidy crisis. Flout Buhari's order. Blame security agents with 30 checkpoints along Katsina GBR Road. Community leader. Nigeria businessmen, security agents smuggle petrol for Cameroonian rebels, says source. Smuggling done by residents. Customs. To the Nation newspaper now. Ethnic nationalities to push bill on restructuring. Others. ACF's proposal gets Ohaneze Pandef Middle Belt Forum support. Afenifere ARG gives conditions, previous constitutions for use as guide. All right, to the Nigerian Tribune, our defecting governors lack courage. PDP threatens to challenge Zamfara governor in court. 18 APC governors set to receive Matawale, National State Assembly members. PDP excos at all levels in the state to also defect to APC. And finally, on the front page of the Guardian newspapers, travelers ditch summer travel over multiple tests, 100% hike in airfares, multiple PCR tests, quarantine restrictions frustrate holiday makers, foreign airlines jostle for Lagos, Abuja markets without promotional tickets, blame weak naira, rate of exchange, high operating costs, says Bernard. Experts explore tourism destinations within Nigeria, Africa. All right, so let's look at this issue that came up again, which has to do with police and parade of suspects. When the issue of the Chidinma came up, where she murdered the late People TV CEO, Super TV rather, TV CEO. The way she was paraded and, questions coming up, and a lot of persons began to criticize the way police handle issues of this magnitude, parading suspects, allowing people, press, to ask them questions. And a lot of persons are saying perhaps that is not the way to go. But the question on the lips of persons is, what is the value of a parade of suspect to perhaps an investigation? Because you say the investigation is ongoing. So why do you have to bring this person out to be asked questions? Let me begin with you, Funke.
You've already, what the police has done with the Chidinma situation, or the Chidinma story, and which they've always done in matters like this, is that they've subjected the suspect to a media trial and to the trial by the people, which is so illegal and unethical. You have arrested someone. She has not been found guilty by the court of law. You have now subjected her, in this case, at 21 years old, she's not exactly versed in the law. She really doesn't know all of her rights yet. And I don't think at that time she was exposed to the media. And subsequent media trials she's undergone in the last 1 week. She had no lawyer to say, this is what you should say, and this is don't say this. And so we saw a subdued young lady speaking under her breath with all the shame and everything. And this brings to mind what Femi Falana said the other time. He had championed this, that it's really illegal to subject suspects to such exposure when the matter hadn't been resolved yet. And he made a point which I want to reiterate this morning, that it's a class matter. You will never find the police subjecting politically politicians, let me say it that way, politicians or the rich to this sort of parade. It's always the poor.
But some persons would say that at that point, seeing that she has been found to be involved in a case of this magnitude, her rights is suspended.
No way. Her right, what the police tells you is, you have a right to not say anything that can incriminate you in the court of law, that can be used against you. Well, I've never experienced it.
And you also have a right to an attorney.
Right.
And you have a right to an attorney. Thank you very much.
Let's get your perspective on this issue.
No doubt about the illegality of what has happened. I mean, parading suspect, no doubt about it. It is wrong. It is not even legal. And of course, if we begin to even talk about the emotional torture that comes with it and all that, let's leave that aside. But sincerely speaking, I think we have not been getting it right. And I agree with Femi Falana saying, who said it's a matter of class.
Right.
Because truly in the past, we have seen some persons that were actually accused, and their rights were read to them. In fact, most times, some of these suspects, they will not even talk to you. And that's exactly what we expected in the case of Chidinma. We expected that the prosecutor or the police now should have, you know, found a way to make her have a lawyer that will speak for her. The fact that one, she's just a bit far away from being a minor. Like I said, she's just 21. So they're supposed to offer her legal counsel, even for free. Of course, there are government lawyers that can actually stand in for her. So what we saw on TV, where this young girl had to face not just the police, but press men,
a barrage of press men
who were asking questions that I'm pretty sure if they ask her some of these questions again, she may not be able to even recount or, you know, give it accurately. She might have probably out of you know, pressure mentioned some things that are not even correct. And these are things that a lawyer would have guided against if she had been offered the services of a lawyer. So one would expect that in the future we should, yes, it's a good thing for me. If, like I said, legally it is not right, but it's also very good because sometimes some of us believe in the name and shame thing, that somebody has done something wrong, present that person to the public, let people see, and then from there, let us know. However, what should be done next is not for press guys to be asking some questions from that person, but we may just know. Yes, we may just know for the purpose of knowing that, okay, we found, because this case is not the case of Chidinma Ataga is not just a case that you can cover up. You know, the guy is a media person himself, so you can't possibly just was a media person, so you can't just cover it up. However, now that we've found a suspect whom we have not even confirmed to be guilty, because we have not seen the end of this case. For some of us, maybe because of available information to us, we believe that there is more to what has happened.
It's pretty obvious.
We shouldn't have subjected her to that.
We are still continuing this conversation, but we need to quickly go on a short break. When we return, the conversation continues. Stay with us. We're still looking at the issue bordering on police and the parade of suspects using the Chidinma and Usifo Ataga as a case study on this matter. You wanted to say something?
Yes, I was going to compare that with the trial because we're talking murder here. Yes. So let us bring examples of murder trials, you know, across the world. You remember the O.J. Simpson trial?
Absolutely.
He wasn't thrown to the media and the people to pass judgment that should have been passed in the lower court. It was a targeted and sustained, was a sustained trial. It took, you know, months before it was then concluded that O.J. Simpson was guilty. Let's look at Derek, the one who sparked a riot across the world. He knelt, and we all saw it. We saw that he snuffed life out of this black man, but he wasn't thrown to the press. He was given a fair trial, a decent trial. He was before the court, made his case. People had cases against him, made their cases against him, and there was a judgment. Why do we do this in this country 60 years after independence? That's
my next question anymore. Because we know what the law states with regards to these issues, and I'm wondering why it is difficult for us to just toe the line of the law.
And I also wonder why it's difficult for the press guys to restrain themselves.
Exactly.
Yes, because of course, if the police, if we are saying the police have done what is wrong, why not? The watchdog for every one of the society is the press. Understand? They can actually correct that anomaly and say,
by not going for the press briefing that they were called to come.
And say, police, fine, you have paraded your suspect, but we are not going to question or interrogate or interview, as the word is,
until
due process is followed. So it simply means that everyone should just try and do what is right when it comes to your time to do so. So if the police adhered, then it's of course it's incumbent on the press guys to correct that and say, no, we don't want to do this. And so I'm charging you two now.
You know what? You're spot on this, because we are the watchdog, as you've said.
Yes.
We are the fourth estate of the realm, as you've said. We're supposed to say, okay, this is going wrong. This is not supposed to be.
Well, that's why we're talking about this now.
But we are the ones who jumped in and so to say, give it impetus.
Exactly.
We gave it wings. We gave it traction. That's the word I was looking for. We gave it traction. And now, everywhere you go, Chidima this, Chidima that. I don't want to play the gender card. But again, we should have looked, when I say we, even we, the people, there's some things we should have outgrown by now.
But we haven't, obviously.
Which is why we need to speak to the people as well. If the media fails to do this, and the police failed to do this, and there was nobody in the judiciary to caution both the media and the judiciary, what about us, the people? We get to a point where we become discerning and so aware that we push back and say, no, this is not right. We're not going to take this. Do the right thing. Look at what's going on in the UK at the moment. There was the civil servant who was caught on tape with another woman. Right. And, they didn't need the Prime Minister to do anything. You knew what to do. You knew that you had overstepped your boundaries as someone, entrusted with, public office. It did the right thing. He left. So we, the people, also have a large chunk of the blame. Stop the media trial. The media trial.
I don't want to totally agree with that. Because,
right, go ahead.
Because the people, we receive what you people give out to us.
No. You should have your own mind.
Yes, we have our mind.
You should have your mind. But someone is directing the course of your mind, perhaps.
There's an extent to which we can actually absorb or possibly even vent out what we have received. Do you understand? So it's what you give to us that we react on. If you had not amplified this issue, we wouldn't have been talking about it.
But then again, the people also pressured the media that you are not giving us this information because
let me tell you, TVC reporter did something, and I watched it last night.
Yeah.
I think on YouTube. She went further to, in fact, no, I love that reportage. Like, going to the area, finding out about Chidima from the neighbors, going back to the school, that's the kind of...
That's the sort of thing we should be doing,
that's the kind of
not
work we expect from the press. Not that hunting for news at the headquarters of the police, then subjecting the suspect to, unnecessary emotional trauma and all that. So we expect very detailed and professional reported from the press, doing what is right at the right time.
Now, one quick issue I'd like for us to also address is the handling of evidence. Because at the parade, we also saw that the police brought a bag containing her clothes. And the question on the lips of some persons is, should that be there at that point? Because we keep hearing about evidence being tampered with, like we saw in Calabar, where that lady who went in search of a job was killed.
I said something the other time that 60 years after independence, there's some things that we should have outgrown. You have gone to a scene of crime. You know that it should be cordoned off. Both the B&B, the place of the murder, and everything. In fact, the entire building. Nothing should be handled without gloves because we're supposed to have forensic evidence, investigations into what happened. So when you're carrying bag up and down like a market woman,
and
market women are,
right,
dignity of labor. But you see, the point I'm making is it's so just not professional. These are some of the things we, the media, should be pointing out. We've outgrown this. This is at this stage. No, you don't do that, and we shouldn't be teaching them what to do because these are professionals.
We need to talk about it.
No. I'm just saying on a good day, we shouldn't be doing that. But since they haven't exhibited enough professionalism in handling this matter, then here we are talking about this media trial. She's a suspect,
she's still a suspect,
and we know the twists and turns in cases like this. What if we found out at the end of the day that she was taking the fall for someone?
Right.
So what then? Are we going to take back all the things we've written via WhatsApp and Facebook and all of that, all the memes and the family of the late Ataga had to write an appeal. Please allow us.
Yes.
You know, because we've all just been insensitive, you know, in handling this matter.
I think we're always very dramatic in our approach in almost everything that we do in this part of the world, and we cannot shy away from the overzealousness of our policemen too, you know, and probably we can trace it to the fact
that could be channeled correctly, don't you think?
But maybe we should trace it to the fact that in the past, probably they are not familiar with, you know, forensics. Probably they are not familiar with digging out, you know, the truths during investigation. No, maybe they are not.
I think again they just wanted to dance. They just wanted to be celebrated as.
And that's why I said we are always been dramatic. You know, we just love drama. Yes. We just love to police. We they do our work. We don't catch the girl sharp. No, it's not about that. It's about doing the right thing,
following due
process. But unfortunately, we don't see it that way. And like I said again, the media is supposed to also feed the people with this kind of knowledge. Now, most times I don't even get to know how our police work well while watching Nigerian movies, but I get to know how police should work while watching foreign movies. Because it's only in Nigerian movies that we even see policeman trying to shoot in the movie and be doing like this, and we wonder, is that how they shoot? Is that the movements and all that? And sometimes I even look at it as if even our regular policemen, they seem to go and watch Nigerian movies to act. I mean, to do their job. But it's as if they are not.
That is so below the belt.
I will not take that.
It appears
on behalf of the Nigerian police,
I stand to take that.
I have friends in the police, and I wonder how sometimes they carry their rifle. I wonder how sometimes they walk, you know, and somebody will just look at it. Sometimes we have made comparison, even on social media. We say, look at how well dressed an Israeli police is. Look at our own policeman. Some of these things are used for comparison.
It's just not true. We've also seen images of our Nigerian policemen and women who looks really
especially the SPUs.
Hold on a second. What I want to agree with what you've said. You've talked about media representation, how we represent some of the images we use in the media. That's what you're talking about. And I believe the film industry, which is also part of the media, should do something about the images.
Very important.
Even that of journalists, always looking scraggy and hungry.
The conversation here now. Thank you so much, broadcast journalist Funke Treasure and President Yewawori Youth Council Abayomi Oke-Asiwaju. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having us.
All right, we'll take a break. When we return, we'll bring you the news update. Just stay with us. Let's bring you the news update at this time. The Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has adjourned till October the 7th the case against wife of former President Patience Jonathan to know if she will finally forfeit the $5.78 million and 2.4 billion naira linked to her. Justice T.G. Ringim fixed the date after taking arguments from counsel to the parties in the matter. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission filed the application for forfeiture in 2017 before Justice Mojisola Olatorigun. The defendants in the suit were Mrs. Jonathan alongside Eli Wari Furniture and Bates. According to the EFCC, the funds belong to the ex-First Lady. The monies were said to be warehoused into banks. Justice Olatorigun on April the 26, 2017, ordered a temporary forfeiture of the monies sequel to an ex parte application by the EFCC. The judge's order was affirmed by both the Court of Appeal and Supreme Court. However, midway to the conclusion of hearing on the final forfeiture on the said sums, Justice Olatorigun retired from the bench in 2019. Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has blamed the menace of corruption and lack of transparency on the poor contract negotiations in the country. The Vice President stated this while speaking at a two-day capacity building workshop for negotiators organized by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission in Abuja. According to the Commission, the workshop is part of efforts to help Nigeria improve its terms of engagement with the rest of the world in order to stem illicit financial flows. Professor Shibajo is now calling for proper negotiation by Nigeria in the ongoing discussion on climate change, which he says should put into consideration the country's peculiar economic situation and needs of the citizens. Citing the PNID and the Strategic Alliance contract cases, the Vice President says Nigeria is at the risk of losing billions of dollars due to poor and shrewd negotiations of the contracts. The Independent National Electoral Commission has commenced the online continuous voter registration exercise, where intending voters can register before they complete the process at a designated center. Rolled on the INEC portal, new voters can pre-register, while those who have registered in the past can access the platform to review their voter registration status. Some of the features on the portal includes the ability to update personal information or transfer voter registration to another polling unit. Registered voters can also request for replacement of damaged or defaced permanent voter cards on the portal. Meanwhile, new voters are only required to fill the forms on the portal with their biodata and required documents, after which they are expected to visit the INEC state or local government office. At the INEC offices, which they can visit from July the 19th, they will be requested to provide fingerprints to complete the registration. Borno State Governor Babagana Zulum has performed well, says the military has performed well in the onslaught against terrorist groups roaming the northeast region and fringes of the Lake Chad. The governor told State House correspondents after meeting with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo at the presidential villa. He said the situation in Borno, hit by more than a decade-long insurgency, is getting better. He also said there is the need to address the socio-economic and political dimensions to the crisis. Governor Zulum says the major concern of the government is to return internally displaced persons to their communities and also begin to seek medium and long-term humanitarian solutions that are sustainable. Let's turn our attention to the coverage of the coronavirus pandemic. Due to the spike in COVID-19 cases in some parts of the world and emergence of a new variant, the Nigerian government has included South Africa to the category of countries banned from entering into Nigeria. The chairman of the Presidential Steering Committee, Boss Mustafa, was speaking at its press briefing, said the decision is due to the prevalence of variants of concern and the dangers associated with importation of such virulent strain. According to Mr. Mustafa, South Africa has recorded over 100,000 cases in the last 1 week, while 20,000 was recorded in the last 24 hours. He said the PSC has also shifted its focus on other African countries like Zambia, Rwanda, Namibia, and Uganda. The Nigerian government had on May the 2nd, 2021, announced a temporary ban on non-Nigerian passengers who have been in Brazil, India, or Turkey within 14 days of intended arrival into Nigeria. We take a break now. When we return, it will be time to talk business. David Alabi will be with you to bring you updates. Stay with us.
Welcome to a Tuesday Business News Report. It's now time to bring you a feature on the show today as we focus on the energy sector with a particular focus on the petroleum industry. Now, the landing cost of petrol being imported into Nigeria surged by more than 60% between December and then mid of June this year, although the pump price of the product remains unchanged. Now, from an average of 143 naira 60 kobo per litre in December, the landing cost of petrol rose to 231 naira 98 kobo per litre by the 16th of this month on the back of the rally in global oil prices and the depreciation of the naira against the dollar. The Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency out in March this year released a pricing template that indicates the guiding prices for the month. Now, the template, which also shows that petrol pump price was expected to range from 209 naira 61 kobo to 212 naira 61 kobo per litre, was greeted with widespread public outcry and was later deleted by the agency from its website. Now, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, Medicare, said on the 25th of March that with the current market situation, The actual price of petrol could have been anywhere between 211 naira and 234 naira per litre. He also says that the federal government is subsidizing petrol with about 100 billion naira to 120 billion naira monthly. That's an average of 3.3 billion naira to 4 billion naira daily, as it has been sold for 162 naira per litre. Subsidy on petrol would also go up about 500 billion naira in the first 5 months of this year, as the federal government decides to leave the pump price of petrol unchanged in the period despite the increase in global oil prices. Well, joining me now live in our Lagos studio to discuss this trend we have in the market and much more, I have energy editor with New Telegraph, Adiola Yusuf. Good to have you on the breakfast show this morning.
My pleasure.
Now, we've had this discussion around the price range we expect the pump price of petrol to be without petrol subsidy, and I remember that conversation where we didn't want to have the conversation around prophecies of doom, so to speak. 250 naira was the peg we put there about in March, April. But now, how do we begin to address this cost differential, the widening gap between the cost and then the pump price and then the landing cost of petrol? It seems you're getting deeper into trouble.
Okay, thank you so much. It's very, very important that we put some things in perspective. Is this not expected? I would say it is expected. And the reason is that even though a number of Nigerians are not aware of the cause, most times when you see a flame and you are trying to extinguish the flame from the flame, you keep having issues until you decide to extinguish the flame from the root of the flame. So it's important that I put the cause of this in perspective. Number one, Nigeria is importing petroleum products, and the price of crude oil, which is where we get even all petrol and all that, is skyrocketing in the international market. As at last Wednesday, it sold at $76 per barrel. And this has even encouraged a number of analysts to say that the $100 per barrel mark is possible.
Well, this morning it's traded at about 73, 74, 75.
Yes.
Look at OPEC basket, Brent crude, and a whole lot more.
Yes. So that has been the reason we are having it, tough. We're having the prices of petroleum product, particularly PMS, premium meter spirits, going up.
Well, the indices, Mr. Usifo Ataga, button here, the indices or the concerns here is the first and foremost, the 2021 budget does not have any room for the subsidy. And subsidy still remains an unsustainable strategy. We initially saw the price modulation mechanism that was introduced, announced by the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, saying that this will reflect the market tendencies. And then we still have the NNPC as the sole importer. So we have other marketers that are not necessarily playing any role at all. Their licenses are just laying there.
Okay, what I said earlier is to give a background to all this. And the perspective to rising prices of PMS, is multidimensional. There are some people that have political perspective to it. There are some people that have business perspective to it. There are some people that have humanitarian perspective to it. Let's talk of political perspective. People have seen reasons to keep, giving stress to NNPC to keep, subsidizing because of because of reasons best known for them to keep being popular, as politicians. That's number one. Number two, the business perspective to read is that it doesn't make any sense to keep subsidizing this product. And one of those that have shared that perspective is the GMD of NNPC, Malamile Kriari. He has repeatedly said that this thing is reflecting on the pulse of the corporation. The third one, which is the humanitarian, are people that will not understand either of the two that I mentioned earlier, but they will just say that it's very, very necessary. There will even be some people that will say that because we are an oil producer as a country, why should we need to even pay for petrol? You understand? So those are the three perspectives, major perspectives on the table. But the one that I think is best for all of us to understand is the one that is of business. If we like it or not, we are not paying the price at the pump price. But definitely, we are still paying the price because NNPC, that is struggling. The fact is, NNPC is a business. Those behind NNPC want to run it as a business to be profitable. You understand? So whether we like it or not, the price that we are not paying as a pump price, we are paying it through NNPC that belongs to all of us. You understand? So it's important. But the major problem now is that I know the group general manager of public affairs of NNPC is trying his best to sensitize Nigerians, but we will still need Nigerians and every other person to be on the same page to keep sensitizing Nigeria. If we are all able to get everyone to the table to realize that it is against every business sense to keep subsidizing this product. Until we do that, you understand, we'll keep moving a step forward and about 5 backward.
Now, do you think this also heightens the concerns raised by the International Monetary Fund? Because we had reports from last week where the mission head was saying that we can't continue with this subsidy. Now, as the earlier forecast, we had 3.3 billion to 4 billion naira daily. Now it's about $5 billion.
It's more than $5 billion. Over. It's more than $5 billion.
How does this also come to you for the fact that we are not having our refineries at the state they should be? We largely are not producing, irrespective of OPEC Plus decisions or not. We are still importing, and then we are open to external shocks. At the end of the day, the conversation around our refining capacity has to be revisited, to say the least.
Yes, that is the truth. I am aware of the fact that a lot of activities are going on in that refinery, be it public or private.
Okay, Mr. Usifo, I'd like you to hold your thought. We have a commercial break we'll just have to quickly take, and then when we come back, the conversation continues. It's still the TVC Breakfast show. You watch it. So watching TVC Breakfast, and it's the business desk presentation looking at the energy sector today. I have with me Adiola Yusuf. Thank you very much for still staying by. Now, still trying to understand the volume of the situation we have on ground. The initial peg was about 3.3 to 4 billion dollars on a daily basis for petrol subsidy. Now it's over 5 billion naira. Translating this to real economic terms, I think for the federal government or for the average Nigerian who still feels comfortable with this subsidy regime, don't understand what this volume of money really is. Now this raises questions as to whether or not we understand what the excesses or the extras we have as we've seen all rally on the international market, because our initial peg for this year was about $40. Now it's about $70-something, so that's about almost twice the price peg. So we need cushions, money for infrastructure, money for development, money for agenda to ensure that Nigeria develops. But we are not having that because we still have the subsidy regime still stay. And some analysts are also saying, well, this is also fueling some level of corruption.
Of course, it will definitely, do. One thing everyone needs to understand is that 5 billion naira every day, on subsidy is inexplicable. It's something that shouldn't even be. We shouldn't be in this kind of situation. We all know that if everyone, has been sensitized properly, and we all agree that this subsidy should go, I think it is going to be fine for Nigeria. 5 billion naira every day on subsidy. It's not something that everyone should be, should be happy about. I was talking about refineries, effort on refineries the other time, because of the fact that we are a major crude oil exporter. It's very, very ironical that we are still the major in Africa. We are still the biggest importer of, PMS. So if we are able to ensure that the efforts, private and public efforts on refining capacity, or surging to refining capacity of the country, all those activities, materialize, it is going to be fine for Nigeria. I am aware that a lot of activities are going on. The government is trying to change the tune from oil to gas. The government is trying to diversify from oil to ensure that the yield dependency of oil on petroleum products is reduced.
To support this sort of transition, we need huge funds. Now, this 5 billion naira we're spending on a daily basis on petrol subsidy, these are supposed to be funds that are supposed to aid such transitions, because it's quite an expensive feat as well. We just have an unnecessary fixation on oil. Let's just put things mildly.
So David, the unfortunate thing is that not every Nigerians understand it the way you have understood it. So we need systemic or planned, communication, sensitization, orientation. Everyone, the National Orientation Agency, everybody, has to be on the same page to ensure that Nigerians understand this the way we understand it. Because immediate subsidy is mentioned, removal of subsidy is mentioned, everyone is going to line up against it again.
Let's talk about social cushions now. Cushions are necessary because when the subsidy is going to be removed, it's going to heighten the pressure on average Nigerian, and we know the cyclical approach it also has to things from transportation to food and a whole lot more. We're going to see increments across board. So what sort of agenda do you also expect the government to also put in terms of social support and cushions to ensure that we don't have this pinch as much as we already fear?
Okay, that 5 billion naira every day in 10 days will be 50 billion naira on spending on the spending on subsidy. I believe the government can channel all that to social, support for Nigerians. If they are able to do that, what Nigerians need, are not too much. Number one, food on their table. Number two, good healthcare, delivery. Number three, maybe for mobility, good transport system and all that.
Security.
Security. So if the government is able to channel this money to all those, or even before that, all these ones have, budgets already. So government can just use payment on subsidy to, augment those ones and ensure that. But another problem now is that there is this, issue of trust. Nigerians do not, even though they have told them, the government, has told them that, okay, we are going to use that money. They do not believe that that will be done, you understand? But everyone, because of patriotism, everyone has to be on the same page. As we speak now, I'm aware that the labor union and the government are on the table talking about this subsidy. They should hasten up. The labor union should hasten up. Let everyone understand, and so that we stop this, I shouldn't call it waste, but in the real sense, it's waste. We should stop this waste as quickly as possible. From one of the statements issued by the GGM of NMPC Public Affairs, Dr. Kenny Obateru, he has repeatedly, highlighted a number of programs that NMPC has put in place to ensure that all these are so. The onus is all on all Nigerians now. You understand, particularly those that have that voice, to let everyone.
I'd like to put you on the spot. We have less than 30 seconds to go on the spot. What do you think should be the price peg of petrol at this point in time on the pump price?
Okay, that is determined by a number of factors. But the number one is the price of crude at the international market, which is, as at yesterday, is about $73.
But do you concur that the retail price should be at about 254 naira 90 kobo?
No, that is the real price. But the subsidy, is the one that is still beating it down.
I see you are playing coy with this message, but thank you very much for your time on the breakfast show this morning. Yusuf, it's been a pleasure speaking with you.
I'm honored.
Well, this is where we wrap up from the business desk. Many thanks for watching so far.
Thank you for staying with us. Wastewater and sanitation management is a big challenge for many African countries, and Nigeria is not an exception. The discharge of untreated waste products ends up in waterways, contributing to the destruction of ecosystems everywhere and putting lives at risk. Wastewater and sanitation management is necessary for the prevention or preservation rather of people's health, the preservation of the environment and resources, and the prevention of natural disasters such as floods. Joining me to discuss this is MD CEO Mark Press West Africa Limited, Idowu Salau. Good morning. Good to see you on the program.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Now, let's begin with this report, a very recent report from Lagos State saying about 40% of Lagosians do not have access to sanitation. And I'm wondering, what does this portray? Is it that it portrays a challenge to our being able to manage wastewater and sanitation, or what does this reflect? Because this is an issue that we have struggled with, if I may use the word, over the years.
Well, it's a challenge, a big challenge. luckily, we just finished the Lagos International Water Conference.
All right.
Last week, just last week Wednesday. And we're able to find out that the data we find on the street now is not that encouraging. Even though Lagos is at 40%. The study we did in 2005 for the World Bank, it was 52%. But thank God that we have moved a little bit. But the sanitation issue in Nigeria with wastewater, there is no way you talk about sanitation if you don't talk about water production.
Right.
You must increase water. If you increase water production, there will be more people that will have access to sanitary system in terms of using water to do their domestic, and this becomes the wastewater.
Right.
And that is the angle, the study that we did in 2005, that we gave a 10-year plan for sanitation strategy for Lagos. And this came about the issue of when Lagos was trying to access the $200 million water improvement. Right. And the World Bank said, if I improve water system for you, you're going to cause another problem of wastewater management. And that is where we did a study. Okay. We now gave Lagos State the indices of what we find on ground, that a lot of people have this poor flush system, but they don't even have the water.
Right. To
do the poor flush. They even put the sanitary system in their home, no water running. So 90% of Lagos, as at that time, population does not have pipe-borne water. So we resorted to the underground water extraction, borehole, and well. Now, the challenges with wastewater is this. There was a time Lagos was having close to over 800 industries in Lagos. Majority of them in the food and beverages industry. We talk of Coca-Cola, we talk of Guinness, we talk of Reliance Textile.
We don't want to mention their names.
Okay, we talk those that are in the food and beverages industry.
Right.
And those that are in the textile industries.
Right.
They are the major producer of effluent.
Okay.
And none of them even have pre-treatment. That is the standard. You must have a pre-treatment from your factory. So,
and they're not supposed to have that before the factory begins to function.
These are part of in the other climb. These are part of the requirement when you know you are going to be producing large wastewater. So you must have a pre-treatment. In fact, you must have a treatment plant. And there's a standard. We have the law. We have the instrument of intervention by government to handle wastewater. Right. But the infrastructure is what we are lacking. Right now in Lagos, I don't see any centralized wastewater treatment plant that is functioning.
Is a centralized one what we need? Why not in various locations?
For the industry,
clusters.
You know, we have clusters industry in Ikeja, Igamu, Oshodi, all those areas we have industry. We can, okay, like industries in Ikeja axis, Obakran, they are all piped together in the 60s. And there is a wastewater treatment plant built by the Awolowo Western Region Administration in 1965, the Wemabode Estate Treatment Plant. What happened to it? It collapsed since in the 80s. And nobody does anything to that. To be able to even rehabilitate it, what will I say? What really happened to Lagos in the last 10, 15 years? Most of the industry producing wastewater, they're already moving out. Their factory have been now being converted into warehouses. We are talking about the textile industry. Some of them. I'll give you an example of one of the beverages industry producing over 3 million liter, 3.6 million liter of effluent per day. Where are these effluent going to? And some of these effluent are having a kind of IBOD and COD. These are the chemicals they demand, high chemical toxic.
All right. For a proper perspective now, let's look at the impact on our environment, because perhaps a lot of persons might be saying, okay, wastewater, is it not just to dispose it? Why is it so much of a concern for people to understand what it is?
It's one waste that you don't see, but the impact is enormous in the society. I give you an example. The sewage is part of wastewater too. Sewage, the human excreta. Worldwide, we have about 2 million tons of sewage entering into water bodies. Yes, when this one, when they enter the water body like that, that's the human excreta. they increase the biological oxidant, the biological, microbiological parameters of water body. We are talking about E. coli, all those, and these are things that cause waterborne diseases.
Right.
That's for human excreta. Now, wastewater from industries. I give you an example of the textile industry that are producing, using dye. The Odoyalaro example. Odoyalaro is not just, there is no magic in Odoyalaro. It is the manufacturing industry upstream of Odoyalaro at Agidingbi axis. When the clean water is coming, the effluent from the industry, textile, brewery at Agidingbi, Obakran, when they mix, that is where the arrow comes from. And people downstream at Maryland will say, you got this magic Odoyalaro. So the mixture of those chemical content, when they go, they pollute the surface water. And that's the water that enters into the lagoon. And most of the water that we extract from our borehole, they all have, they are interwoven. The underground water mixed with the surface water. There's no way. So all these chemical components that are in the wastewater that industry pollute the water body with,
comes back to the house.
Comes back to the heat. Even here in Magodo, where you are here, and the Olusosun dump site, there is what we call attenuation. The leachate that is coming from the percolation of rainwater on waste, it will attract some of these pollutants from the waste, and that too go into the underground water, pollute all the well around this area. So the wastewater treatment plant is very crucial when you talk of managing the wastewater. The effect is that if you look at the water and sanitation is number 6 in the Sustainable Development Goal of the United Nations. And if you want to remove a country from poverty, water and sanitation is number 6. It's there. It's in the indices. So if you now look at, I give you an example of why Nigeria was ranked number 1 in defecation, in open defecation in the world. In fact, surpassing India in 2019. Lagos contributed a little bit there. Reason is that you have about 6,000 trailers, 7,000 trailers coming to Lagos every day, invading Lagos. And each trailer, we have about three people working, coming in with it, and they don't have where to do where to defecate. The entire Surulere, Igamu Aziz to Apapa to Amuwo Dofin, is open defecation everywhere. Who is concerned about that?
Why is it such a difficult venture, if I may use the word, to engage in? Because you have been trying to engage the government since 2005,
yes,
according
2005.
to that report.
Yes.
Is it so difficult to make progress that will have that impact that we need? Because when you look at the issues that this could stir up, if not properly managed, it's a lot and it's scary.
See, I still blame it on political interference. One,
how so?
Inconsistency in government policy.
All right.
Yes, that's what I mean by that. Inconsistency. The government is putting interest more on solid waste. In fact, they have not even tackled that. There's another one, which is the wastewater. The industry that's supposed to be able to cooperate with them are saying that government is overtaxing them. So the first thing they need to do, the law is there. If you want to, Lagos State has passed the law since 2004.
Enforcement is the challenge.
Enforcement one, but the regulatory agency are now coming up to the challenge now. The Lagos State Water Regulatory Agency is now coming into because the issue of the water conference that we did, we were able to go home and let government know that, the data on ground is not what we can talk about in terms of encouragement. So we should do more and less talk. So where we are saying is that infrastructure in wastewater management, all the stakeholders, the government, the industry, even individual homes. I give you an example of people who are building estate in Lekki. Before you give them approval for construction of houses more than 20 buildings, it's in the law. You must have your wastewater treatment plan before you get the building plan permit. So these are things that for the treatment of your sewage and wastewater from home. You cannot open a restaurant in New York without linking to the sewage and wastewater management plan of the city council. It's not possible. Why will an eatery will be discharging his wastewater straight to the open drainage? These are major challenges that we are facing. So if we are going to improve on water supply infrastructure, we should be thinking of improving the water and sanitation, wastewater and sanitation infrastructure too, so that all the two will go pari passu. Because if you leave one, if you increase production of one and you leave one, you cause another problem. Because now we're having serious problem of aquatic animal leaving the scene. That's in the Lagos Lagoon. You hardly see both these private fishermen on Lagos Lagoon anymore.
Right.
By the time you get there, when they put their net, they are coming out with solid waste. Most of the water is polluted with high chemical demand, BOD and COD. So this killing the aquatic animals. Because the wastewater are not being treated. You remember the days of Ido,
yes,
where the raw sewage during the Agbepo in those days in the afternoon, they throw the women excreta into the lagoon. It still continues. Go to the Yalaro. And that's where I blame government, inconsistent in government policy. One government was there trying to build a centralized wastewater treatment plant at the Yalaro there. Another government came and scrapped it up. What happened? These are the things we need. If we have gotten that I think that wastewater treatment plant is supposed to treat close to 1,000 cubic meters of effluent per day. We have removed that pollutant from the system, from the water body. So somebody should query what is happening, what happened, why did they stop that?
Right.
So these are the kind of inconsistency in policy of government that I said is one of the things that is a major challenge.
You mentioned something that this is a chain. The people themselves have a responsibility.
Yeah.
The government has its responsibility, just as industries also have their responsibility. Let's look at the people now. Perhaps we can begin to address that gradually from the point of view of the people knowing how to better manage wastewater. What are their responsibilities specifically, and then we graduate to, okay, how we can tie all of this up. Are there alternatives to dealing with these things that government could adopt to make things easy for everyone?
Everywhere in the world now, everybody talk about circular economy, circular economy. It's the same thing in the wastewater industry.
Right.
People responsibility is provide this sanitary ware in your house. Provide water. Everybody need water is life. Everybody need water. So definitely, if I'm building a house now, I'll provide my sewer line, my connection, all the toilets in my house will be connected to my underground, well, my borehole. So that's one of the responsibility of the people. Now, government should be the one now to take the responsibility of collecting and treatment of this sewage and wastewater coming from individual homes. So if I prepare myself, I'm expecting government to come. And this industry have commercialized itself right from the day whereby people know that if my septic tank is filled up, I'll go and call the truck people to come and take it. And the truck people is what the government should look into their activities. Where are you taking 20 million population excreta to? And don't forget that Lagos have high water table.
Right.
The land use settlement of Lagos is not is what we make the way the soccer way we filled up, because the water table is very high. So it will not at least frequently you should empty your soccer way 2 or 3 times in a year in Lagos.
Really?
Yes. Because of the high water table. Okay,
but you rarely see that happen.
What's happening? People are cutting corner. If the regulator should go there and check who are the people checking. Now, how can an estate be estate of about 75 units of homes? They don't have wastewater treatment plant, but they have water supply system. They have water supply system within the estate. Where is the wastewater treatment plant? And there are so many little infrastructure that can change the narrative. They are there. We have the containerized system that will treat 500 cubic meter of wastewater every day. If you say any estate, no matter where you are, you must give us your wastewater treatment plan, since we cannot afford to do decentralized anymore. So you must give us your wastewater management plan before we approve the construction of the estate for you, before people start living there. In fact, we will be the one to even inspect the construction. So this will reduce the amount of wastewater going into the public, into our public water body. Then at the same time, industries too. I talk of industries that are producing large effluent.
Yes.
they should have at least pre-treatment. If we now have pre-treatment, we cannot do maybe piping any longer. Maybe we should try trucking. If we can truck petroleum resources, then we can truck wastewater from industry and take it to the wastewater treatment plant wherever it's located. So these are infrastructure government, I think government should put in place for us to be able to move ahead. But without that, we'll still keep killing our population. And don't forget, lack of proper sanitation, 1.3% of the GDP, amounting to $1 billion, is what is affected.
Right.
In terms of productivity. If currently we have 50 million people in Nigeria that lack proper sanitation, 10 million homes, that should be worrisome to any government in power.
Absolutely. And that's a fine place to leave the conversation this morning. MDC, your Mark Press West Africa Limited, Idowu Salawu, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
All right, let's tell you now that the views and reactions of all our guests are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. That's all on TVC Breakfast this morning. Join us again for another edition tomorrow at 7 a.m. Do stay safe.